Morning, everybody. This is David Morrow here, Hard Target, at you with another video. I was going to bring up something I've noticed a lot of people talking about right now, a lot of TIs talking about, is their mental health and how this plays an effect with everything. People are questioning their sanity online on a lot of posts I've been reading all over the place. Am I crazy? Am I really being gang stalked, or is this a game or what? Or am I losing my marbles? Well, there's a few things that you can evaluate before you step into a hospital emergency room and declare all these things. Number one, your surroundings. Anything stressing you out over the edge, potentially. All their little quirks in this game that they use in this program will drive you to the bridge of suicide, possibly committing heinous crimes, and potentially being out of character because you're getting hit with so much stuff all the time, all these little puzzle games and quirks that these people are doing, that they're hired to do to you, and all the street theater. Yeah, it's made and designed to mess you up psychologically. So you got to train yourself and your mind, if not help from others, without the help of overpaid hand holders, because that's what they are, and they work for the state too. So the Baker Act, talk about the Baker Act. The Baker Act is the Florida Mental Health Act of 1971. It was designed for people with mental illnesses and potential mental illness if they're a threat to themselves or others. So if any of you have ever been in that situation to where you're getting evaluated, first of all, it's by a caseworker, Department of Human Services. First, it's going to be the hospital doctor or whatever. They're going to ask you if you feel like hurting yourself, hurting others, you feel homicidal, suicidal, hearing voices, things of that nature. If you're taking medication, any kind of bipolar medication, anything like that, antipsychotics, they're going to ask you a whole list of questions. Do you feel safe at your house? And that's the one that's going to get you. Do you feel safe? And they fire off that one, and a lot of people's going to say, well, no, I don't feel safe. And they're going to ask you, why don't you feel safe? What's wrong? And then you go into what's going on if it's heavy duty stuff that you're going through. So they start scribbling, and right off then, that's paranoia, that's schizophrenia, signs of that. So they're gonna evaluate you and determine whether or not you're a threat to yourself or others. And if you explain to them what's going on, like a lot of us have, and they don't know what to make out of it, or they do know what to make out of it, and they're not going to tell you because they're part of it. Well, that's how this works. And you want to keep yourself from getting bakered as much as you possibly can. Myself, I've had to baker myself because the situation that I was in when this gang stalking stuff started happening to me in 2019, and I was put in a situation where I could not make it to court, and that is the only way I could get out of it without having a felony warrant, which the judge changed his mind anyway, so it didn't matter. So I did that for free. And they asked me the questions that I said and everything like that. And I answered them, no. I'm just going through a lot of stuff. I'm really stressed out. My anxiety levels are going through the roof, which I had every right to be, because if you've seen my story and heard my story, then you'd understand why. But yeah, I bakered myself to get out of the court thing without missing court. Well, while I was in there, I talked to a psychologist, and I know how they work. They got different levels of trauma that they can talk to you with. So each, like if you go to a psychiatrist, they're only qualified at a certain trauma level to deal with you. So if you got a whole bunch of stuff going on, they might drop you. So if you're ever wondering why is the psychiatrist dropping me? I've only been seeing him for a couple months. That's why. They're not equipped to handle that, and they're not qualified to handle your trauma level. Now, the ones that work at the mental health facilities, like the straight up doctors that are prescribing the medication and everything, they are, educationally speaking, they have the credentials to do it. But the one I spoke with, I started talking to him about all this gang stalking and everything, and he's like, well, it sounds like you're schizophrenic. Or I'm like, I'm not schizophrenic. This is really happening. I showed him some videos of everything, and he goes, maybe that's a coincidence. You're just taking it out of context. Well, the social worker was sitting there in the room, and she looked over, and she goes, you say gang stalking? I said, yes, ma'am. She goes, I've heard of this. He's not lying. I read it in the New York Post. Or not the Washington Post, my bad. And then he kind of like toned it down a little bit. Well, that's what happened. And I was around some interesting people that were going through it, like really going through it. And that was not my cup of tea. So I had to endure that for about a week until they let me go. And I wouldn't take medication because I was like, I'm not here for pills. I don't want anything, because they're really adamant on getting you medicated. And the doctor was telling me, well, we have to give you something. I'm like, well, I don't want anything. I'm not here for that. I don't need nothing. I like me. I don't want to change my makeup. Like my mental makeup. So I think they gave me some Valiums or lorazepams for the anxiety, and that's all they gave me, because I didn't want anything else. I didn't need anything else at the time. So, that being said, I'm sure everybody else have the similar problems, if not more, and depending on how you act in there and blow up, because they act real calm and docile, they want you the same way. And you start blowing up, you're going to get a Thorazine shot in the ass, and you're going to be doing the scoot and the shuffle, and they're going to be in a padded room somewhere. That's what we don't want. That's their goal. Either you go to prison, death, or a mental health facility, or completely homeless on the streets. That's the goal of this program. So, be careful, be mindful of what you say. If you're having a meltdown, or if you're exhibiting too much, you want to try to stay away from that as much as possible. Try to talk to somebody first, especially another targeted individual that knows. If you have problems, a lot of us targeted individuals got each other's numbers, and a lot of us know how to contact each other. That's the best thing for you as a support group, and that way we can pick each other up off of our feet so we can avoid this thing. And we can talk each other down out of trees too, the same way if you want to get violent and do something that you've had enough of and retaliate. We want to avoid from doing that in the public eye and around cameras. But I'm not condoning it for you to do that by any means, but just be careful what you do and what you say these days, especially now. And anybody that's a targeted individual, they've got mental health problems. You've seen perps and videos screaming the same shit. They'll sit there and tell us that you're delusional, blah, 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 blah. How do you know? How are we all experiencing the same mass hysteria, Freddy Krueger nightmare? It's impossible for everybody doing the exact same thing. It's not like that. This is very real. This is a very serious issue. But be mindful of yourselves, what you say when you go into a hospital, because the second you say you feel like harming someone or harming yourself, that's a wrap right there. And they ain't going to tell you that you're about to get pinched and handcuffed and hogtied and thrown in the back of a cop car or a van or whatever, and they're going to take you to a mental health facility. And if you've been bakered like that, and you say some stuff like that, your stay is going to be a little bit longer. And then they can go to a judge and send it in court, and then that's in public record. Once it hits a courtroom, it's in public record, so people can see what has happened to you. But the main deal is, you want to stay away from that as much as you can. I'm gonna say that a few times. You definitely, you don't want to be in the judge's hands, because they will definitely put you away. And being bakered is up to 6 months. It's 72 hours to 6 months, depending. Now, another thing about this act: can your family or friends do this to you? Potentially, yes. If they feel like you are unsafe. And they're part of the stalking program, even if they're not, and you're scaring the shit out of somebody, and you go overboard with it, they can potentially call the cops and have you bakered as well. And that is involuntary. And that is also in the court's hands. And it happens to be in the town or county you reside in, I believe, for this to happen. So, on the medication part of that, if you're going through heavy stalking, heavy torture, everything they're doing, the V2K and everything, medication's not going to help anything. Medication is going to change your wiring, change you as a person, your personality, everything. Yeah, granted, if you're taking like benzos and stuff like that, that will calm you, just like smoking marijuana or drinking or anything like that. It's going to calm your nerves. Or even meditation is going to calm your nerves. Anything in that ballpark is going to calm your nerves. So you want to completely stray away from taking the chemical medication that they claim that you need, because you're taking the word for somebody that is wearing a lab coat that probably got a C or something on their MCATs or something. You know what I'm saying? You don't know their background, but they're recommending that you be medicated or whatever. That's coming from a doctor that works for the state, and you know that they got a bunch of those in their pockets. That's part of this program. That's part of it, because they're getting paid too for you being there and the medication you're swallowing. So all the pharmaceutical companies and everybody else is getting some money off of it, just like the prison systems do. Whenever it's the same thing. When you go to prison for anything like this, it's related. They're getting money from you. Everything that they're doing is all a money game, and this is part of it. So, with the Baker Act, be careful, be mindful. If you know somebody that's sliding off, their cheese is sliding off their cracker and they can't help it, and they've had too much, please reel them back in. We want to keep people out of these places because we're not crazy. This is really going on. This is a real issue. This is a real deal. And it's going on every day. People are taking their lives. People are getting incarcerated for crimes they didn't do. They're being set up just like myself. And that's how that goes. So, like, subscribe, share this video, and I'll have more to come. Y'all have a blessed weekend.